I'm Barry Sheerman. I'm the Member of Parliament for Huddersfield, and I have a very deep interest in education, but of course I do everything from educational skills, the environment, but of course back home what I really care about is the future of this town, and in particular the health of this town, the hospital, the A&E, and the threat to our whole existence of our hospital locally. Well, to close out local hospital would be devastating, and of course it's incremental. If they say they're going to stop having an accident emergency facility, it means they're downgrading, and they're taking, which after all is a good but average general hospital, and taking a vital element out of it. And you know, if you do that, the whole status of the hospital starts to decline. That means you can't get doctors to come here and work here. It really is a decline. And of course, the present plans are not only to do that, but actually to knock the whole of the old hospital down and build a very small hospital that will not be the proper, fully functioning hospital at all. Well, it's what the community are doing. My job as Member of Parliament is to work with the community, and we've got really amazing support against, not just against the closure of our A&E and our hospital, but also, doing something creative in terms of high-class healthcare for the 21st century. And part of my job is, it's very easy if you're running a campaign to be pulled into negativity. In other words, you keep saying, no, don't, you mustn't close our hospital. No, instead of, at a certain stage, you have to say, look, we want a great hospital for the 21st century. Let's talk to the university and have a teaching hospital. Let's get some real research money so it's a hospital really for the healthcare in the 21st century, combining social care and health. And sometimes you have to work as an MP with your community to lift up their aspiration. Petitions are fantastic. It's very good to have petitions, and the more the better, But this is a war, it's an offensive, and so all the time you're thinking, here is a petition here, over here we're going to have a rally, we're going to stand outside. Do you remember the other Saturday we all encircled and tried to levitate the whole of the old hospital? So you're thinking all the time of ways to keep the media interested, to let the government know that you're not going away, you're not going to be pushed over, the campaign is going to go from strength to strength. But also you've got to have passion and purpose, but you also have got to be thinking all the time, of how do you counter them with real thoughtfulness. And so when we put a group together, say, come on, let's analyse what they're suggesting really deeply. Let's get some really good international health experts and globally famous health to look at it and help it. And so you come back with a really first-class rebuttal to the second-rate proposal they've made. I think the trouble, the fact we have clinical commissioning groups, they are at the heart of the problem of the botched change in the health service introduced by the government. And as I say, it wasn't actually a Conservative government. It was the coalition government that started all this, and they've reformed the hospital service. So, on one hand, you have clinical commissioning, so everyone, and in a sense, it's been a way of getting more private sector contracts in, and it really has broken up the whole nature of the health service. Because, to give you an example, the first thing that happens when you start clinical commissioning is the low-hanging fruit, the easy things to do, get picked off by the commercial sector. They don't want to come in and run accident and emergency. They don't want to do the high-grade, difficult operations, the cancer operations and all that stuff, or the heart transplant. They don't want to do that. They want to do the low-hanging fruit that doesn't cost that much and they can make a good profit from. And so we, in a sense, have destroyed the economy of local health trusts by this particular kind of backdoor privatisation. Well, the Calderdale A&E, the Calderdale Hospital, is quite a small hospital, and it's even worse, built on a restricted site so it can never expand. That's a real problem. So it is too small in the first place, and secondly, of course, it is very, very distant from most of the population. Kirklees is one of the biggest urban populations in the country. It's a massive population. And to think that all that population now has to travel on very difficult roads right across to a quite remote part of Calderdale, where the Halifax Hospital is, that is really a very difficult. People didn't look at the transportation links very carefully early on. And of course, this real secret, the real problem, is something I raised in the House of Commons only yesterday, with the leader of the House of Commons. And when I said it is actually a badly negotiated private finance initiative, a PFI contract, that is at the heart of this. Basically, that private relationship is with a big funding, banks and investment funds. All they want is their money, and in order to feed that money that we owe on the PFI, we have to sweat the asset. As much service must go through Halifax than anywhere else. That is the trouble. Up and down the country, these bad PFIs, up and down the country, they have caused health trusts to founder. And I said just in the House of Commons, let's get a system where we can get rid of these PFIs, pay them off, refinance the debt entirely, so that you free every health trust actually to run a health service based on the need, not some inherited bad debt. Well, it will, because I've got a big family. I've got 3 daughters and a son, and I've got 10 grandchildren. They don't all live in Huddersfield, but like every other family, in the same way that my family has benefited from good local schools. My kids went to local secondary schools and Greenhead College here in Huddersfield. In the same way, when my family's ill, we pitch up at the Royal Infirmary, and we've had over the years really good service there. And yes, like every other family, we use local facilities. And you start taking those away and giving them second-rate facilities, it's not good enough for me, it's certainly not good enough for my constituents. I understand that, unfortunately, 2 things. Let's try and be nice about this. First of all, everybody knows, right throughout the civilised world, there are tremendous strains on any health system, because people are living longer, children being born who would not have survived not very many years ago. The technology keeps them alive, and it keeps older people alive longer. The demands on the health service are immense. Naively, if you look at the history of the National Health Service, people, when we founded the National Health Service, said, look, once we've made everybody healthy, we won't need an NHS. Now, of course, as you make people healthy, they live longer. The impact on the health service is greater, not less. And because this tremendous problem between healthcare and social care is something that we've all got to learn from. And I could be the narrow politician that says it's all their fault or it's all their fault. I think every country in the world is faced with this dilemma. How do we make it affordable for everyone to have decent health care and then looked after properly as they become frailer and become older? Very important to do that. But to play the brutal political game, it is true that under Gordon Brown as Chancellor of the Exchequer, he put an enormous amount of investment in the National Health Service, and we haven't had it since he went. And under the present government, the resources haven't been big enough. I think all of us, I did have that front bench role. I had several front bench roles. I was at one time the Shadow Minister of State for Police, Prisons and Crime Prevention. So you do a lot of stuff in a long career. But I was chair of the Children's Schools and Families Committee and the Education Select Committee. And of course I got very much into, what kind of service do we give people who are on the autism spectrum, people who have mental health challenges. So one gets into that both as a community and constituency MP, but also because you get special knowledge. And I chair the Autism Commission. We came out with a wonderful report only a few months ago on the fact that many autistic people can't get full access to the national health because of simple lack of training of personnel who don't know how to understand the challenges that an autistic person finds in going to a GP, going to a noisy A&E. You know, the bright lights, all that we know is something you can train your staff to do. We've got some fundamental changes out of that report. Yes, I do know about disability. I also know about this founding commitment that I have. I got into politics to try and ensure the good life of the people of this country and the people I represent. And the good life means a good job, decent income, the ability to have your children's education high quality, and for everyone to have a health service that is there on the basis of need, not the ability to pay.